solutions we need off the table. And by getting even 5%, 10%, 15% of the vote, those solutions are no longer off the table. They are on the table, and in fact, they are unstoppable because, one, we must have them. Two, they don't have a single exit strategy in their minds, in their toolbox. They don't have a single exit strategy from the next Wall Street crash, from the continued offshoring of our jobs and declining of wages, from the continued skyrocketing of student debt, from the continued meltdown of the climate and our environment. They don't have a single thing to say about any of those things. They are very busy talking about everything but. So for all those reasons, we are going to win the day. The only question is when. They are going to continue driving ordinary Americans, working Americans, elders whose Social Security and Medicare are going to be cut. There is a grand bargain that is in the works. You will see after November 6th, unless we are in the White House, there are cuts on the way from Democrats and Republicans to dismantle Medicare and Social Security. You can be sure. So elders will be pushed into our camp. 20 million elders right now are being kept out of poverty by Social Security. The Democrats are proposing that we stop the cost of living adjustments, that we reduce that cost of living adjustment, and that we raise the eligibility age for Medicare. So they've got changes of their own that are kind of between the lines right now, but they have gone on record and they refuse when asked to say that they're not going to cut Medicare and Social Security. So you can be sure it's going to happen. Elders will continue to be driven into our camp right along with young people who are being screwed out of a future not only because of debt and unemployment, but also because the climate crisis is falling full bore on your shoulders. So we are here as the lifeboat, as people continue to jump off of that sinking Titanic of the Democratic and Republican parties. Our lifeboat is strong. It continues to grow. We have the power of truth, justice, the facts, and we actually have the solutions on our side that are supported by large majorities in poll after poll. So we actually have public opinion on our side. So if democracy has anything to do with this, we've already won this election. We just have to implement that win and do an end run around the political repression that is keeping the 1% very much in control with their stranglehold on our democracy. This is all about breaking that stranglehold, taking back our democracy, and turning the breaking point we face into the tipping point we need to take back the peaceful, just, green future we deserve. I just want to run through that agenda, which I've alluded to, but I just want to be specific. We're talking about a Green New Deal as an emergency program. Yes, an emergency program that will create the jobs we need and put an end to unemployment. We're talking about 25 million jobs in the green economy to jumpstart that economy that puts an end to climate change, that zeroes out greenhouse gases, and that makes wars for oil obsolete, all rolled into one. This is an emergency plan. It calls for creating jobs at the community level, national funding on the order of the first stimulus package, in fact, less than the first stimulus package, about $600 billion in the first year to jumpstart this program. But it would create far more jobs than the stimulus package, which created 2 or 3 million. It would create 25 million jobs because our funds would be used to directly create jobs, not for tax breaks. Tax breaks don't create jobs. So we would create far more jobs for the same amount of money, prioritizing the jobs that communities decide they need to become sustainable. So we're talking about jobs in the green economy, clean renewable energy, conservation, efficiency, local, sustainable, organic agriculture, public transportation, including active transportation, safe bike paths and safe sidewalks that lead to transit hubs. And you can bike and walk to school and to work or to a public transit and integrate activity back into our lives without having to buy yourself an expensive subscription to an expensive sports club and drive for an hour to go do your exercise. You can actually get your exercise as part of your daily activity. This is how societies get healthy. And if you put together pollution prevention, healthy food, and a largely plant-based or an organic diet, which is local and fresh food, as well as active transportation, that's what your mother and your grandmother always told you you needed to do to get healthy. And you know what? They're right. Right now, we have not a healthcare system, we have a sick care system, and it's making us bankrupt. At the same time, it's making the insurance and pharmaceutical companies rich. It's making us bankrupt while we get sicker. And in fact, we're spending $2 trillion a year on a sick care system where 75% of those dollars are actually spent treating chronic diseases that are preventable at a tiny fraction of the cost. How do we prevent those diseases? Through the Green New Deal, by ending pollution, by creating a healthy, affordable, accessible, local, sustainable food supply, and through public and active transportation. So the Green New Deal is a win-win-win. It provides for the public services and public works, as well as jump-starting small businesses and worker cooperatives. And then just very briefly, so we can jump to a couple of questions, we're also calling for health care as a human right through Medicare for all. It more than pays for itself. And we're calling for free public higher education and ending student debt. It should be free. We know that it more than pays for itself. For every dollar invested in public higher education, we get $7 back in economic benefits to everybody, including more than enough revenue to pay for public higher education. So this is a win-win for all of us. It's an investment that we must make in our future. We guaranteed a high school degree throughout the 20th century because it was essential for economic security. So in the 21st century, now that a college degree is essential for economic security, it's time to provide a college education for free through our public higher ed system.
Yeah!
And just for the record, we're calling for downsizing the military, cut the budget in half, bring the war dollars and the troops home and the bases, and retire the drones. Don't bring them home. Dismantle them. Out at sea. We also call for ending the drug wars, legalize marijuana. It's a substance that is dangerous because it's illegal. It's not illegal because it's dangerous. End the war on drugs. It's a failed racist war. We need to treat the problems of addiction and overuse as public health and mental health problems, not as criminal problems. We can empty out the jails. And treat immigrant rights as human rights and create a welcoming and legal practice. That by and large America supports in poll after poll in large majorities. Why don't we have it? Because we have a political system which has been hijacked by the economic elite. And we've got an economic and political elite that are basically in bed together. They have been for a long time. And we are accelerating under both Democrats and Republicans in the wrong direction. But there is a movement for democracy and justice. Thanks to you, thanks to the people in this room, that movement is alive and well in so many ways. And on November 6th, we're going to bring it into the voting booth. And what you can do is get on the internet, go to our website, jillstein.org. You can get our newsletter and forward that to your friends. You can get on Facebook You can get on Twitter. If you like, share, and repost on a regular basis, we do have the potential to go viral and absolutely turn politics on its head in the course of this race. And however far we get, it's a victory. It is a win for us, and it's a win we can continue to build on. There is no way that they can hold us back, because our future depends on taking back our democracy and a politics that is of, by, and for the people. When this election is over in November 6th, we roll right over into phase 2, and we continue building. I discovered a long time ago as an activist that what a political party is a coalition across the issues. They want us to be marooned into several different issues, make it a divide and conquer game. There's nothing they want more than 1,000 points of light, all flashing without coordination, incapable of actually moving us forward. But you know what happens? When you focus light beams together, you get a laser beam, which can really get the job done. And that's what I encourage you to join your local Green Party. If you don't have a Green chapter, if you don't have a Campus Greens here on campus, get in touch with us through headquarters, HQ, at jillstein.org. We can help you set up a local Green Party chapter on campus. We can help you get in touch with the State Green Party here in Washington, which is a wonderful party. We're always looking to create more local chapters to keep the work going, because in between running for elections, we are doing the work on the ground to stop the coal trains, to stop the nuclear power plants, to stop the offshoring of our jobs, and to start the health care as a human right, to promote the free public higher education that we deserve, and all the other solutions that are here right now, clean, renewable energy. So these are the solutions that are there and waiting for us. Our time has come. As Alice Walker also says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. They are not. It's time to stand up and be counted. Thank you all so much for taking our future back, making it peaceful, just, green, and democratic. That's the future we deserve. Thank you all so much. So I'm told we need to be out of here, and yeah. So what's this?
How about we go till 10 after 2, which would shorten the next session? Is that agreeable with everyone? All right, then we need it 5 after 2. So you got 10 minutes. Raise your hand if you have a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Hi, I'm curious about one of the things I'm most dissatisfied with Obama speaking about is how law enforcement, the role that law enforcement played around political expression, especially this time last year. And so that was one thing I didn't hear covered in your platform, and I think it's a huge part of the executive's responsibilities in federal law enforcement and the role that has been expanded under Obama with coordinating state law enforcement. So I just wanted to hear about that.
Great. All right. Terrific question. But let me just add, for people who need to go, there are materials down here. And I wonder if maybe, is there a way to move some upstairs as well? But we have signs and buttons and flyers and bumper stickers. So help yourself. Take some for your friends. If you need to leave, pick up some stuff on your way out. There's also a sign-up sheet. And do we know where that is? Kate, do you know where the sign-up sheet is?
Going around.
Okay, there are sign-up sheets going around. Maybe we can place one at the door so for people who need to leave, you can also sign up to stay in touch, because it's all about building the team. And the question was, what about federal law enforcement? And I think people are aware of the role that was played by the White House and the executive agencies, by Homeland Security and the FBI, in coordinating the suppression of our First Amendment rights, of our rights to protest, to speak out, to petition government for redress of grievances. There was a coordinated effort to suppress that by Obama's cabinets, basically, no doubt with permission and support from the president himself. So this is absolutely an abuse of power, an abuse of our civil liberties, and just plain and simple needs to be stopped. We need to stop the militarization of our police forces altogether. This is just a dreadful development. We need to stand up and protect all of our civil liberties, to repeal the Patriot Act and to repeal the FISA Act that invades our privacy as well. So all of these violations need to be confronted. The American public needs to be informed, and we can put an end and restore our civil liberties as they should be. Thank you.
So I continue to be an undecided voter because I can't decide between you and Rocky Anderson.
Okay.
So I listened to both of you. I like what I hear. I'd like to know your take on Rocky's campaign and why I would vote for you over Rocky.
The difference is that I'm a national candidate. We're actually on the ballot for 85% of voters, and I'm part of a political movement and a party which has been fighting the fight for decades. Rocky just left the Democratic Party, and he thought, oh, I'm going to start over. I'm going to do it better than everybody else has ever done it. I'm going to create a whole new party myself. And he said, you guys have too much baggage. And we say that if you actually, if you are a third party and you start to really upset the apple cart, you know what? You are going to have baggage. If you don't have baggage, you are not making the trouble of a third party. Rocky, I agree with him on all the issues, except the issue of political organizing. This is not a one-man show. This is about building a movement and running candidates at all levels of office and being on the ballot all over the country.
Hi, I'd like to thank you for running, and also, I guess what I see as one of the big goals for the Green Party would be getting that 5% benchmark and $20 million in the next election round. And then that would put us in a really interesting situation where the Green Party would have new strength that it's never had before monetarily, but like for all those accusations of like vote splitting of like the nominal left in this country, the Democratic Party, it seems like there'd be a period of time in which there really would, really strong Green Party camp and probably a still pretty strong Democratic Party. What would that look like, I guess? What would be the plan for after the 5%?
Great, really good question. And let me explain the 5% thing. We've come up in the polls from undetectable to 1% to 2%, which is actually way bigger than what we've been able to achieve in any prior election. And this happened even while we were fighting to get on the ballot. The system is designed so that real challengers have to be tied up in knots, jumping through hoops for 90% of the campaign. We've only just begun to have a real campaign in the last 4 weeks of the election. Nonetheless, even though we were not out there campaigning, we were getting on the ballot, word was spreading all by itself. So the hope is, now that we're running a real campaign, can we actively get the word out? Can we Facebook? Can we Twitter? Can we inform all our networks and double our numbers and go from 2% to 4%, and then maybe a little bit more, go to 5 or 6%. Once you break the 5% vote count nationally, two things happen. One is that you're automatically on the ballot. So next race, we can hit the ground running. We don't have to be tied up in knots, spending all of our resources and staff just getting on the ballot. It would be just an incredible breakthrough to actually be on the ballot from the get-go. It would give us a real shot at getting the word out. And the second thing that happens is that you get a $20 million grant from the federal government, and that would be enormous. We raised $500,000 in the first part of the election. We're trying to raise $500,000 now to be able to hire the staff and really get the word out. You can go to our website, by the way, if you have interest in supporting that. If you're in a position to make a contribution, you can do that, as well as volunteer at the website and help get the word out. So getting $20 million by reaching 5% would be absolutely astounding, and it would give us the real resources to move forward. On the issue with the Democrats, we've been trying to pass voting reform that puts an end to this potential vote splitting. It allows you to rank your votes, your choices. It's called ranked choice voting. But they keep stopping us. Even in my home state in Massachusetts, 85% Democratic legislature, they still won't pass it because they use that to silence political opposition. It's really just a game that they play. So they are going to have to learn that they've got to fix that broken political system, and they can do it in the blink of an eye once they want to do it. In the meantime, we should not allow them to silence us. And in fact, when you look at what happened in Nader's race, they always point to Nader as vote splitting. In fact, it wasn't Nader, it was the Supreme Court that stole that election. And the vote count, exit polls were done by CNN and other press organizations, and what they found was completely contrary to this spin campaign, this hype that's used to try to silence you. Nader's votes came equally from Republicans and Democrats. The vast majority of his votes actually came from independent voters who had voted for Ross Perot and otherwise would not have come out to vote. So the deal is, with independent parties, it brings in more people. Right now, 1 out of every 2 voters is sitting this out, because they get that the Democratic Party is just as sold out as the Republican Party. So we reject that propaganda.
Ms. Stein?
We reject that propaganda that tells us we have to be quiet. We are here to stay, and we are the true voice that is of, by, and for the people, and we are going to be a choice in every election coming up for the foreseeable future.
Ms. Stein? Ms. Stein, how do you feel about carbon credits, and is biomass, in your view, necessarily green? And if you have time, what's your position on GMOs?
Okay, great. So I'll just run through that real quick. Carbon credits are very problematic. The whole cap and trade thing is an extremely flawed system. It sort of locks it into a Wall Street gambling framework. We need to move to a system like what Jim Hansen proposes, which is called a fee and rebate, which is much fairer, much simpler, it's not complicated, and it will gradually raise the price of carbon, but ensure that, that people get that money back to spend on renewable sources of energy. And then quickly about GMOs.
Biomass and then GMOs.
Okay, and biomass is not necessarily green, and most often is not green. The question is biomass ever green? And probably some kinds of biomass are. That is, that they don't steal food sources or steal land that needs to be used to provide food. It's a difficult question, and biomass needs to be looked at very carefully. Many of the claims that are made about biomass, especially wood biomass, are being used to basically chop down our forests and make a huge carbon pollution problem long before they start growing back trees. So very often it's basically used as greenwashing. It has to be very carefully examined. And GMOs need to be banned until such a time as they are found to be environmentally and health-wise safe. There are red flags on the line. Just quickly, I guess people have their ballots now, mail-in ballots, is that right? Yeah. So mail them in, the sooner the better. There are many reasons to vote, by mail than rather than through electronic machines. I'm not sure, are electronic machines used here? Okay, all right, great. All right, very good. So you don't have that to worry about. But the earlier you vote, the better. And, vote green, vote early, and tell your friends.